Now, if you guys have been paying attention to the channel here recently, you'll already know that I picked up a brand new ride last week. So today, I'm gonna give you guys an honest review and a full in-depth look of the 2023 Grand Cherokee Limited Altitude. So just to start off covering some of the basics, in my last video, I had a lot of questions on if this was the L, and this is not the L, this is the standard Grand Cherokee. So you'll notice that it's about a foot shorter overall than what the L's are. Now, beyond that, this is the Limited Altitude, and of course it's four-wheel drive, but it does have the 3.6 liter V6 in it, and paired with that is the Zf8 8-speed transmission that is in many of the Mopar products across the line, and it's always treated me extremely well, except for that one time. Now, with the Altitude package, you guys can already tell it is fully blacked out. So obviously the trim pieces up front, obviously the wheels, and literally every single accent on the exterior is going to be blacked out with the Altitude package. Now, one thing that's a little bit different about this is it's not the standard Laredo with the Altitude package. It's actually the Limited with the Altitude package. So there are a few extra quirks and features, and I'll show you guys through those. That way you can see if you can justify the price difference between the actual Laredo and the Limited, because they are both offered with the Altitude package. And in all honesty, in terms of the Laredo and the Limited, for the exterior, it's going to be pretty much the same. So just peeking under the hood here, you guys can already see it is the 3.6 liter that I previously stated. The power output on these is 293 horsepower, 260 foot-pounds of torque, so it's no slouch, and it's got plenty of usable power, and they don't have an engine cover. I don't know why, but they do not have an engine cover. Now, of course, since it is the Altitude, you've got the 20-inch wheels, and they look really, really good on this package. They are completely blacked out, and they do have the Pirelli Scorpion all-season tires, so it should perform perfectly fine in pretty much any weather condition throughout the different seasons. Now, obviously, this is the new body style. A lot of people from the previous video were kind of wondering why it looks so much different. They did recently change the body style and did a whole new configuration for the exterior as well as the interior. So there's plenty of new body lines. There's a bunch of different features on the inside, and even aside from that, it's just an all new styling that makes it look so much newer, so much more refreshed. Now, jumping onto the interior here, you can already tell it's an all new design and completely refreshed. So of course we've got our awesome LCD display up here for our gauge cluster, and we've also got the new 10.1 inch Uconnect screen. Now, that is one of the options that you get upgraded going from the Laredo to the Limited. Standard is the 8.4 inch screen, and they pretty much have the same capabilities. It's just a bigger display and a little bit different layout. Now, moving on from that, you can tell we've still got plenty of our actual buttons where you can actually operate a lot of the functions from the screen or from the head unit right here, including your climate control for your heated seats, heated steering wheel, as well as your dual zone climate control, and even all your standard vent controls. Up here, you do have the ability to turn off your auto stop start, which is always nice. Of course, you do have your lane departure control, traction control, blind spot monitors, and park sensors. We do have the paddle shifters up here as well, which is always really nice with that crispy Zf8 transmission. You've also got your adaptive cruise control settings, your standard cruise, as well as just your toggle switches to operate this big screen. All of this material up here is actually soft touch. You can tell it's leather, and then also has that nice stitching right there. The stitching actually carries throughout the dash up here on the top, and it all pulls it together really, really nice. We've also got this simulated wood right here, and it looks really good. It's more of like a grayish style wood, so it doesn't really stand out and look out of place like that old wood you'd see in the last body style. Now, we do have our memory seat settings right here as well, so you've got 1 and 2. That way you can just jump in, press the button where you have it set to. One thing we don't have in this one that is optional is that big screen right there for the passenger side. Now, once we go down here, you guys can see you've got your USB-C as well as your standard USB outlets. You've also got a cigarette outer outlet right there, and you've even still got an aux input, which is pretty cool. You've also got your different controls down here for sand, snow, auto, and sport. And then you've got your prindle right here, which is on the knob. So this is very similar to what they've done in the past with a lot of other Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram products. It's worked well so far, and they really haven't had any issues since about 2014. So that's something you really don't need to be concerned about. Another cool option you do get with the Limited, at least with this one, was the Alpine sound system. So with the Alpine sound system, it also comes with the subwoofer on the back. So it really pulls everything together, and you do have the option to listen to it in surround sound, which is always really nice. Now, fuel economy on this thing is rated for 19 in the city and 26 on the highway. So far, we've got 17.6. Of course, the motor is still breaking in. It's got 558 miles on it, and it hasn't had enough time to properly break in to get the most efficient fuel mileage, but I do expect to get somewhere around 18 in this thing. The 3.6s have never really been known for the best fuel economy, but that's just one thing you've got to expect with these. Once you get up top right here, you can see you've got your different controls to open up your rear hatch, obviously your dome lights, and then your assist SOS buttons. You've got a standard sunglass holder right there. They do have an option to get a pass-through mirror that has a camera in the rear. This one doesn't have it, so it's just the standard switch. That way you can dim it whenever you need to. But you can see up here, you've got all your controls for the adaptive cruise control, forward collision warning, and of course with something at this level, it does have the rear cross path mitigation, everything like that. So it's got plenty of the safety features, including the blind spot monitors to help you whenever you're going down the road. Now jumping onto the screen here, of course, it's got many of the different options that you'd see in most of your standard Jeeps. At this point, they're pretty much all the same, just a little bit different layout. Now, something that is pretty cool with the different modes here, whenever you go through, you can go to sport mode. Of course, it changes the screen there, and then it'll also change the screen on here, which is always really neat. Whenever you go to this, you can go to launch off-road pages as well. Once you go to that, it really shows you everything that you're used to in a lot of the other Jeep products. It'll tell us we're right here in sport. It'll tell you your longitude, latitude, your altitude, also what mode you're in too. So for vehicle dynamics, it'll also go over your accessory gauges for whenever you're off-road, your pitch and roll, and then for the select train, it'll just show you exactly what mode you're in with more of a visual perspective. So whenever we go through it here, this is auto, snow, which is really cool, and then sand and mud. And that does change up here as well. And once you do get into sand and mud, it does turn off traction control, which is a really neat feature. Now, continuing through this screen here, of course, you can look at your actual pitch and roll right here on the actual display, as well as your actual articulation angles too. So that's something cool to see. And then continuing through, you do have your standard things like audio, of course, messages, settings. And with this layout here, you can change it if you want to see your adaptive cruise control up here. And it basically just puts the speed up top. So it's a little bit cleaner look whenever you are going down the road. And then you can hold this right here, and it goes to an analog gauge, and the analog gauge is also pretty clean. It's a nice design, but I do like this standard gauge a little bit better. It's just a little bit cleaner look and less to have to worry about and look up and see. I do have the gear showing up there as well. It's always nice to see, especially whenever you have the paddle shifters. That way you know exactly where you're at all times. And then of course, just the standard fuel gauge and the temperature gauge right there. But I'm really impressed with how they've pulled everything together so far. Like I say, the only thing that's pretty much a downfall right now is having to carry a microfiber around all the time to wipe off these black pieces, because we all know these little pieces get covered up in dust and marred up very fast. Now, driving this thing down the road, you can definitely feel its weight, which is something I really like in an SUV. I actually traded my 2022 Kia Sorento SX in for this, and the Kia Sorento just felt a little bit more light, not necessarily more nimble, but it just felt like it didn't have near as much of a road presence. This is a pretty wide vehicle on the inside, and it carries onto the hood, which is something that's traditional to a lot of the domestic vehicles. Now, of course, whenever you do go into sport mode and the different modes like that, it will actually change your throttle response as well as your steering input. Then it'll also change your gearing just in terms of how the transmission shifts. So it'll actually take your shift points a little bit higher whenever you're revving it out. And then whenever you're slowing down or going around curves, whatever the case may be, it'll actually downshift a little bit quicker. That way it stays in to use that engine brake instead of you having to use the brake pedal near as often. But for the four-wheel drive system, this is more of an all-wheel drive system that does automatically engage. So it's not something that you have to worry about putting it in four-wheel drive or anything like that. If it senses it needs to be in four-wheel drive, it'll automatically take care of that for you. Now, the road noise on this machine really isn't noticeable. Compared to other machines in this category, it's just as quiet as the others. Even compared to something as prestigious as the Telluride, the road noise is almost exactly the same, but the actual drivability of this machine seems to be quite a bit better. The responsiveness and the actual feedback you get from this is quite a bit better than a lot of the other things on the market, especially once you go towards some of the imports along this line, because it just seems like they dumb down so much of the stuff. It's so electronic that you don't really get much of a feedback from the actual vehicle when you're driving it. With these nice leather seats, it's actually a really comfortable ride. The seating position is really comfortable. The seating position is something I could definitely tolerate for long road trips. And even aside from that, it's got so many different ways that it can actually adjust that if it's not comfortable, you can get it to where it is comfortable. Of course, for the 2023, whenever you get the 10.1-inch screen, you do have the wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay capabilities. Aside from that, the actual power range on this 3.6 liter paired with the 8-speed is pretty much perfect. especially for the weight of this vehicle. Whenever you're just cruising, going down the road, it always seems to be in the right gear. And then whenever you do need the high-speed passing power and the low-end torque to get you there, it's definitely more than capable in any situation it's been in so far. Now, in my honest opinion, in terms of the actual features you get and the capabilities of this machine, it's one of the absolute best in the market under around $70,000. For me, I've had plenty of different vehicles in the past in plenty of different price ranges, and for the all-new Grand Cherokee, it's pretty hard to beat. You obviously get all the creature comforts that we've become accustomed to in this newer age of cars, and aside from that, you got the four-wheel drive capabilities to get you through pretty much any on-road situation and enjoy some good times off-road as well. Of course, you do have Uconnect services whenever you buy this machine as well, so you can basically lock, unlock, set the climate control, all those things on your phone, which is pretty convenient and nice. You also get a subscription to SiriusXM like many others. I believe for this one, it's a standard 1 year. Of course, pretty much all new cars at this point do have the Wi-Fi capabilities, so that's just something we've become accustomed to at this point. A lot of the capabilities and features that this thing has are not really offered in all the other machines in its category, especially not in its price point. And once you go beyond that and realize you're getting something from a pretty reputable brand throughout the entire industry, it gives you a pretty good amount of confidence. And then beyond all that, just the actual styling. The absolute biggest selling point for me on this machine is just the new exterior styling. I love the new body lines. I love the way they put everything together, especially paired with the altitude package. The altitude package really just makes all the new styling pop, and it looks really, really good. Even the rear quarter angle on this machine is just something, whenever you see it going down the road, if you don't know what it is, you want to know what it is. And if you do know what it is, you pretty much want one, or at least that's how I felt. The new design for these taillights is a lot more of a sleek and integrated design, and I think it makes it look so much better, especially with the new look of this rear quarter angle. And you just can't help it. You gotta love a machine with an American flag put right there on the side. Now, of course, where this one isn't the L, it's the standard 2-row, and you do have plenty of storage still yet. Plenty of space for the rear passengers, and of course this one's primarily just for baby, so she's got plenty of room back there, even with a pretty big and bulky car seat, and you've still got plenty of room to scoot that seat back as much as you need to. Now in the back, you do have the heated seats back here too, which is always a pretty cool and nice feature. You can turn them on right there with the flip of a switch. You've also got your standard house outlet, USB micro, and standard USB outlets there as well. And then you've also got the air vents, which is something pretty important whenever you got a baby riding back here. Without having the third row or anything like that, it's a pretty wide open space. You can tell we've got the Alpine subwoofer right back here. And then also whenever you open this, you do have a spare, which is really nice to have. You don't see that in many vehicles anymore. And then you've even got air vents in the back for defrost, things like that. And you do have some tie down points too, so you can use that if you ever need it. You've also got a 12-volt outlet back here. That way you can throw something back here if you really do need to use it. But for the back, overall, it's got a lot of room and definitely plenty of capabilities for anything you need to haul. And then you just press the button on the side, and of course this will go back down and close itself. If you guys haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think and let me know what you want to see next. If you would like to see some more videos on this machine in the future, drop it down in the comments below and I'll be sure to make some more here soon. Make sure you give me your honest opinion on this machine and what you honestly think. Would you want one in your garage? But with all that being said, until next time, Godspeed.